Hi, everybody. Welcome to Actually Caucasian. Today we have an interview with Aslan, and I'm very much looking forward to hearing from him. I'm going to give us some time for people to join. I already see some people popping in. Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. I appreciate everybody who comes on here and partakes in this project of mine of just trying to get voices of our Caucasian community at large, right? Mostly diaspora. I have not yet had the pleasure of interviewing somebody who's currently living in the Caucasus, but today our guest is from there and grew up there, but lives in America. So that's really cool. Very much looking forward to hearing from him. He's on, but I'm just going to give everybody some time to join. And I wanted to say something before we started today's live that today's topic might be sensitive for some people, but this page is for this. The purpose of this page is basically to push us past our comfortable zone and into a place where we're able to learn from each other and grow together. So if for any reason, and I'm not expecting this from my viewers, my audience has always been so respectful and so magnanimous, and I'm so appreciative for that. Just very respectful people, and like I said, I'm so appreciative. But if you start to feel like this topic is triggering you or upsetting you, maybe that's a good thing. Maybe that means that there's some conditioning that you've had growing up that is being challenged. And today's conversation is going to be a little bit different. You're going to be seeing me, but we are not going to be seeing my guest. And my guest, I'm going to leave that for him to talk about, to explain, to discuss, and hopefully just we can all lend an open mind and an open heart to the things that he has to share with our community. And I'm very, very appreciative for his, it's very brave to come on here. All of my guests I always tell them, you're very brave. It's not easy to hop on a call on the internet, talk about yourself. So this is no different. I am going to add him, okay? So just give me a moment. And I am going to leave the comment box open. So as we're talking, my guest is comfortable, answering questions here and there or seeing comments. I just, would love if we're able to show my guest the same respect that I have always seen from the people who are on watching my lives. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and add my guest. What was here, this one. I have added you. I hope that you are ready to hop on. Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you
Wait a
so much.
second.
No
Hello.
problem. Hello. Can you
Let
hear
me.
me?
Yes, I
Okay.
want to connect my headphones.
Okay. No problem.
Okay, they are not connected, so it's okay.
Okay.
Hi to everyone. Hello.
Hello. I can hear you. You're fine.
Okay, great.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining me today, Aslan. I'm excited to hear your answers to the questions that I sent you.
Uh-huh.
Looking forward to hearing, about your life, about the stories you're willing to share with me and with the audience that I have on my page. Um,
Yes, I'm excited too.
awesome. Okay. so let's go ahead and get this conversation started.
Uh-huh.
Please introduce yourself. This is the first question, right? So please introduce
Yes.
yourself, your connection to the Caucasus, and basically like just get us up to speed on who you are and maybe why you're here today.
Okay. So today I will not be sharing too much like personal information. Uh, but I lived in the Caucasus for most of my life. I grew up there, and I also lived in like two Russian cities. So it's important to understand that the place where I lived is like 99% mono-ethnic. So there's no like Russian. So it's big difference between like typical Russian cities and the Caucasus.
Okay.
It's different experience.
Okay.
So I have lived in the Russian cities and the Caucasus too. And yeah, so most of my life I lived there, and I'm in the Caucasus. I lived in the Republic of Ingushetia.
Okay.
So out of the all republics is the smallest one,
Mm.
and yeah, so that's it. So I'm directly came from that place, and I have lived in the United States, but not for that long.
Okay, well, your English is fantastic.
Thank you, thank you.
Our correspondence has been so seamless, and I'm so, like I said, looking forward to hearing everything you have to share.
Thank you.
Okay, so the second question is, how does it feel to be there? So you lived, like you said, most of your life there. You know, how does it feel there? Like, what's your basically, how would you describe living there?
So I will be sharing my experience. It's worth to note that this is my personal experience, and everybody's experience can be different.
Right.
And also, I want to point out that why I'm like hiding my identity. It's because people from Caucasus tend to be very protective of their like culture or everything that related to them, and protective sometimes me being aggressive too. Right. So it's just for my protection, and some people might don't like what I'll be saying. So this is why I'm like protecting myself. But people are very protective about like the information about themselves. So my experience living in Caucasus was like not the most pleasant one, I would say, for me personally, because Caucasus in general, and especially like the republic where I came from, is the place with a very strict rules and how you say it, mentality, and these rules need to be followed. And if you want to exist in the society, you need to follow these rules. And this is not like, and these are unwritten rules. Like everybody knows that. And it's basically like, it's the part of the culture too, because most of these rules is like made us who we are. Right. But for me, they always was too restricting. Like the main message that you get growing up in Caucasus that you need to be like everybody else, like and it's very collectivist society. This is what very important to understand. The society where I came from is collectivist society, and also it's very religious society too. Okay. So, for example, me growing up, I always was asking questions when someone tells me like, oh, you need to do this and that, and I was like, why? But the answers, I didn't like them. So I was always like thinking differently. I didn't like a lot of things like people did, and I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't think it's right. And it can get you in trouble sometimes, especially when you are younger. Right. And when you are more older, people tend to overlook it, but you definitely need to be following rules. And for me, the Caucasus and this place especially, it's very xenophobic. Russia in general, it's very xenophobic country itself. And the Caucasus and my republic where I came from is extremely xenophobic. Not to like other like Russians or other nations, even to nations from Caucasus too. And yeah, basically this was the experience. I never felt like was fitting there. I never felt like I was fitting in. So since I was a little child, it was not like easy for me actually to live there. I always dreamed to moving out of there, to living somewhere. And yes, was this was very like strange experience, but at the same time, most of my family, all my family lives there, and my relatives, and I have a good memories too of them. So it's like mixed experience, but mostly like I always knew that this is like place not for me. Like I'm too open, like minded, a free-minded person to live there. So that was my experience.
Okay.
But you said also, um, no, this is the other question. Okay. Follow.
No problem. So now that you're in America, do you feel like you are, I mean, has it fulfilled that thing that you're looking for of where basically your ideas and where you're living are more
Hmm.
connected?
Yeah, but yes, because the radical difference between like America and Russia in general and the Caucasus is like in America people like don't care. Like just people just don't care. You can do whatever you can
That's
think
true.
about whatever you want. It's like completely different from the place where I came from. People do care what you do, how you act, how you dress, what you say, what everything is matter. You basically constantly need to be on alert
I
where you live there. Like you need to filter what you say and what you do because it's important
I
there. It's very important.
I
And for me, it was never like relaxing experience. So you always need to be on alert. So and it's rules to be followed, and sometimes they're very like small, but like I can't do that. It's not how I want to live.
right. Okay. Okay, so I mean, I would describe that as basically being a minority within a minority, right? So
Yeah.
you have your Russia, then you have the Caucasus,
Yes.
and you're even a smaller minority within the
Yes.
Caucasus.
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much
Um,
like that. Yes.
okay. So next question, how do you connect with your lineage? How did you connect with your lineage in the past, and how are you doing so as an adult?
This question, like lineage, I'm sorry, let me quickly translate
No, no,
the
it's
word
okay. So
lineage.
lineage,
Uh,
like your culture,
okay.
like your ethnicity, like who you are, as
Yes.
a
This
person.
is very interesting story for me. So,
Okay.
growing up, I never felt like fitting in that society. And basically, at certain age, like at age like 17, I was able to move to other like Russian city.
Okay.
It was it, and I fulfilled my dreams to like moving out of that region, and it was like very freeing experience to live like outside of that place and to have some freedom. Uh, but the thing is, the people from my region they also live in the other Russian
I
cities,
see.
and it means no relaxing there too because they are monitoring. If they know that you are from that place, they will be asking questions. They will be like you under control.
I
So
see.
the things about Caucasians and Caucasian diasporas is that people even living outside of the republics tend to be very controlling of the what the people from their own republics do and how they position themselves. So, for example, I can't even wear shorts. When I say to you that I can't wear shorts, like it might sound like stupid, but I can't wear shorts, but just because I'm from that region. Because the men of the certain age like need to like dress certainly.
Okay.
And for example, I had the instances where I was like living in the Russian city, and people from my republic like was like coming to me and why you dressed like that, like why you acting like why you doing that, and
Mhm.
it's messed up for me. So what I did is my idea then was if they don't know that I'm from that place, they will not come for me.
Okay.
So then I started to lie about my identity. When people ask me where I'm from, I started to say, "Oh, I'm used to say that I'm from Georgia because Georgia is like other Caucasian country, and I'm pretty much like looking like a Georgian, and they don't care if you not their ethnicity. They only care if you are like from that republic, from that place." So I started to lying to people, and the once it was even the case where I was working, and one guy was from my republic, and we worked for 1 year, and he didn't have idea that I was from republic because I was lying, and that was a system
Yeah.
that I told nobody that I'm from that place. Yeah, because I didn't trust people. I have like very trust issues, so I didn't tell anybody. And I worked there for 1 year, and nobody know that I'm from Ingushetia. So everybody thought I was from Georgia.
Wow.
So, and yes, I was pretty much in denial my whole life of my culture because even to the people who I trust with, I tried to avoid this topic, to speaking about where I came from and all this stuff because I didn't feel the part of my like nation and my culture. But actually, it changed at one day, basically. And for me, I'm the kind of person, the change that happens with me, they sometimes like, it grows up at one point, it's like, comes to me, the understanding, it comes to me like at one point, one day.
Right.
So it was basically in my republic, when I was there, I was visiting the mountains. We have very beautiful mountains, and it's very picturesque. And I thought to myself, listen, you can be whoever you are and not accept the certain like traditions and mentality of your nationality, but you can still appreciate your culture, and you still, this culture is a part of you, and you are the part of that culture too. So like I just realized that, and from that started basically my reintroduction to my own culture. And I start to looking back at the many things that have like I experienced as living there differently, and I said, this is my culture, and that's something that no one can take from me. I'm from that place, and this is my culture, and I'm a part of that place. So I start to reading books, a lot of things, and learning about my own culture, language, history, and actually like Circassian culture helped me to do that because I started to first, this is why I subscribed to you, because through some kind of Circassian page I found you too, because I remember my mom liking like Circassian music, because Circassian music and our music is different.
Right.
And I reintroduced my own culture through Circassian culture because I learned about like Circassian history and genocide at some point, and I thought this is really messed up. And through that, I started to reintroduce into my own culture. So it all started from music. I like music a lot, especially like folk music from different places on the earth. So Circassian music was first. I started to listen to it. I thought, wait, if I like Circassian, I can like my music too. So I started to reintroduce myself into my own culture. So yes, this is like comes from the like Circassian sides for Circassian culture, because in the Caucasus, a lot of cultures basically they're also interconnected. At the same time, they're so different. But we have my culture has influence from Circassians too. Like we even have like the places named like in Circassian language in my republic. So yes, and this is yes basically now I probably know more about my culture and my language, my history than anybody, like most of the people that living in my republic. But right now, I'm very appreciate my culture, and I view myself as a part of that culture. And no, right now I don't have any problem telling to people where I came from. I'm actually proud of it. So, but there's a definite things that I'm not proud of our culture, but it happens. Like nothing in this world is perfect, so it is what it is.
Right. And I just wanted to connect with what you were saying at the beginning of your answer to this question, because I've never been to the Caucasus, and almost everybody that I know in my personal life, given a very small percentage of people, have also never been to the Caucasus. And I grew up in New Jersey where there's, you know, the big Circassian community that we
Uh-huh.
have there. And I, I can relate. It's so interesting what you were saying about people needing to be the same.
Yes.
Um, it's such an interesting thing. You described it as a collectivistic or collective society structure.
Yes. Yes.
And that's so fascinating to me because when I decided I wanted to put on my scarf, because I'm Muslim,
Mm-hmm.
so at some point I came to the point where like, okay, I want to cover my head and I want to, you know, be more observant in my faith.
Mm-hmm.
The most backlash, the most
Mm-hmm.
negativity that I got actually came from people within my community, which is, it was
Uh-huh.
shocking for me. It
Yeah.
was hard. And I know that there are other women who have also made that choice and then they receive sort of a similar kind of reaction. It's just like, wait, what? You know, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Um, so it's just, and that's like one very small example, but I think even before I put the scarf on and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
um, there is a very strong thread of we are the same, you know, we need to be the
Mm-hmm.
same. And I think when that happens, it's really easy for people to feel alienated
Mm-hmm.
because it's almost like an unattainable, unreachable goal, right? Like the
Yeah.
girls should be like Setenai Guasha, which is like our, you know,
Uh-huh.
example of like pure Circassian feminine
Yeah.
ness, and then the men
Uh-huh.
should be a very certain way. And if you're not, then you know, it just kind of feels like maybe you're faking it or something.
Yeah.
Somebody has a question asking,
Mm-hmm.
I don't get about the strict rules. Is it about your people or about government above?
Uh-huh.
Maybe.
It's about people. It's not about government at all.
Okay.
When people think Caucasus or part of Russia, like it's basically like its own thing. There is nothing Russian about Caucasus.
Oh.
And
Okay.
yes, it's like it's basically like country within a country. It's this is how it works. And the thing is, you have all these Caucasus republics that part like they are on the row. And the thing is, every republic is very different.
Mm.
So I would say the Ingushetia, Chechnya, and Dagestan, they are most like hardcore ones, the most strict ones,
Okay.
because there's not much Russians there. When you
Okay.
go to Kabardino-Balkaria, Karachay, Cherkessia, and DJ, they have Russian
I
population
see.
mixed in. So it's kind of like softens the things. But my republic and, for example, Chechnya, they're mono-ethnic. There's only one ethnicity. I never saw Russians. I only saw one teacher was my Russian, and never in my life I saw Russian there.
I see.
So it's basically its own thing. We have our own culture going on, and Russian culture is like nowhere seen there. Like, and actually, when I say xenophobic, people are xenophobic to Russian culture too.
Okay.
Caucasians don't like Russian culture, and even when you are there, like you can't talk much in Russian. You need to speak your mother language, and people will point it out to you, like speak your language, don't speak Russian.
Okay.
It's not like so. It's not about like government. It's like about own people.
Okay.
And when I say people are very protective, they are protective of their rules, culture. So I can tell it's kind of like reminds me of like Iran. But in Iran, you have a police that enforces the religious stuff and rules. But where I came from, people themselves enforces all those things because they are so protective
Right.
of the culture and all these things. But they fail to question, is it good or not? They don't question. And the experience is very like, a lot of things are very, how you say it, there's a lot of hypocrisy and double standards. Some things you can do, but some things females can do, but men can do. So it's a lot of things that you need to think about it and to ask questions and just to like, think about it. But people prefer don't think. They just follow the rules. generation to generation, nothing changes.
Right.
It's like people follow all the rules. But I was always questioning why, what's going on. But this is why I was not fitting, because people don't like there when you ask questions. You need to follow the rules.
Right.
So this thing is the experience of living in Caucasus and experience queer culture there and looking on it from outside. It's like extremely very different thing. So here in America, of course, like there's freedom, democracy, you can do whatever you want, but it's very different from Caucasus.
Okay.
So yeah.
See, you learn something new every day.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. I always thought because it's within the Russian borders, especially the,
Yes.
of course, Northern Caucasus,
Mm-hmm.
that there is a heavy Russian influence, but I guess I'm wrong.
It is small, but it's mainly related to influence on language, because we watch some Russian like TV, and this is basically because of that. But otherwise, no, people are very aware of that Russian culture is different culture, and they don't want it.
Wow. So,
Yes.
so it's definitely a preservation. It's like
Yes.
preserving what's left,
100%.
basically, right? Okay.
It's not just one left. It's since if you go to history of Caucasus, people from Caucasus, they are not giving up. The thing is, Russia is colonized and conquered Caucasus, but people don't forget that stuff.
Right.
And people know that Russian culture is inferior to their culture. And like, there's still a lot of hate between Russians and people from Caucasus, because people from Caucasus know what Russians did.
Right.
And for Russians, we are like some kind of like unknown people who have their own stuff like going on, and for Russians we act like barbarians, you know.
Right.
And this is a lot of xenophobia between two parts, and it's not like Russia try to enforce their culture upon us. Right. It's not happening. Russia don't care, at least as far as we part of Russia nominally, and Russia control our land territory. Russia don't care.
Right.
This is how it works.
So interesting. In America, we have reservations. So
yeah.
the native people that were basically gathered, moved around, they put them on reservations, and it's kind of like that, where their country, their own country within a country, where there's a lot of preservation and stuff that goes on. But of course, it's not going to be the same as the Caucasus, because this is just a completely you know, the concept, I mean, the Caucasus, like the North Caucasus, they call like an autonomous region, right? So,
yes, we are republics because it means we have the biggest autonomy. So we have a lot of autonomy, how we can implement our own language, even our own constitution. So yes, it's a lot of autonomy, but you know, it's not that much actually, because if Russia wants to control, they will. At the end of the day, it's just Russia giving us our space to do our thing. But if it wants, and we know it from the history,
like we saw when they basically what was the word?
The example, yes.
Right.
The Chechnya, the war in Chechnya, you can see at the end of the day, Russia won. So like, because just Russia is the big country, just so big, so you can't like compete with that.
Wow. Okay, well, thank you so much for answering his question. Oh, we have another question. You're answering you're bringing people's curiosity. So do you feel that preservation of culture can be harmful at times or toxic? What's a better way to preserve culture in a healthy way? In your opinion.
Oh, definitely.
Of course, this is your opinion. Everybody's entitled to their opinion.
Yes, this is my opinion. Definitely. So there's definitely a lot of toxicity going on, especially like, for example, it's a lot of toxic masculinity, because people from Caucasus, there's like, I would say like masculinity is the very important thing for men in Caucasus. Caucasus is very patriarchal society, extremely patriarchal, I would say. And there's a lot of toxic masculinity going on. So it don't give sometimes when you're a child and you try to live your childhood, but you have this toxic masculinity. It's kind of like steals your childhood. So I feel like it doesn't don't give you a space to be a child. It's from the small age they teach you like to be tough. There's no space for emotions. You know what I mean? So you need to be tough. So and uh, one example of it's not even toxic, it's even dangerous sometimes. For example, I told you it before, Noor, that I want to bring up the topic of, for example, honor killings.
Okay.
Is the part of Caucasian culture. It's still happening in my republic and in Chechnya and Dagestan, I guess. But in other republics, it's not that much, that strict. But for example, honor killings is still a thing to this day. And it's not just toxic in my example. It's like, it's horrendous. Like, it's somebody don't know what honor killing is, you basically like, you can read about it in Wikipedia, but in Caucasus, your honor is the very important and big thing because it's a collective society, and what people think of you and of your like family is very matters. And because of that, when your family, for example, in a position when some member of your family put a shame on it, you need to kill that person who did that in order to wash away that shame, you know, and to be the member of society again, to like a good member of society again. But the thing is, it only comes to women, because if woman cheats on her husband, or for example have some kind of like sexual relationship with men before marriage, she can be killed. Like, and it happens 2 times since like the September. It's just the 2 occasions that I know. And but the thing is, a lot of men lives like this. They cheat on their wives. They have sexual contacts before marriage. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. But they don't get killed.
Right.
They don't get killed. So when it comes to human rights, the Caucasus is very like it's very bad about when it comes to human rights, especially women rights. Like, why woman killed if she cheats, but men don't? Why? Nobody asking that question. Nobody asking that questions. This is why I tell you about hypocrisy and double standards. For me, it's just absurd. Like how, like, and this is still culture too. You know what I mean? So for me, it's very, very disgusting. It's disturbing, and I don't understand that. And the thing is about honor killings, when these people face like they go to, how you say it, to court to like judge, they often get very small sentence, because the judges are also from that republic, also that nationality, and they understand why they did that. And just because of that, they have compassion to person who killed, and they give them very small sentence. 4 years for killing his own sister. Stabbed, I know the case where the brother stabbed his own sister 27 times with knife, and she got killed because she was cheated. It's allegedly cheating. So even it's not the fact. Just because somebody say that or it's alleged, you can be killed. And we have the cases where people, yes, this is where when it comes to honor killings. So yeah, it's not about religion too. It's just our culture.
Right.
So, and when you add a religion to it, it's got even like messier.
Right. Well, you know, in America, they don't call it honor killings, but they do have that happens where the men and the women, there's this issue of violence between, you know, the genders and stuff. And the difference, I would say, is that maybe the judicial system is more separated, right? So if honor killing, which is what they are when they happen in America too, occur, the judge is not going to know this person.
Yeah.
They're who you know, they're just gonna like figure it out, and things are gonna take place. So that layer of the fact that it's such a
Yes.
small community, I think, is what really undermines
Mm-hmm.
the justice that should be served and is obviously maybe is not being served.
Yeah.
Um,
And the other thing is about human rights.
mm,
So before I told you like you need to follow the rules.
right.
For example, a lot of people try to escape from Caucasus. It's not like the place where everybody lives happily. So a lot of people try to escape from there, and it's it's easier for you if you are like male because you have more freedom of moving, like to going to other cities. But if you are female, it's kind of harder for you because you are under control of the male of your father and the brothers or other males from your family.
Right.
But the religion fanatism is different things on itself in the republic. So the Ingushetia is like 100% Muslim, like Islamic Islam, and people there are really like how you say it, they're fanatics. Yes, people are very into religion, and sometimes it crosses the line, and I think people are uh, too much into religion. And for example, you need to do like the praying. If you live there, you need to like need to do that.
Right.
Especially if you are younger. When you're older, people kind of like give up and don't say you nothing. But if you are younger, you are definitely under pressure
Mm,
to be religious, to pray 5 times a day, to go to the mosque. And it doesn't matter you do it from your heart or not. You just need to do that in order to fit in the society.
I see.
And even if you don't want, you do that. But if you say, for example, you don't believe in God and you don't believe like in Islam, all these things is a big problem for you because there's a lot of cases that people escaping from Caucasus because like they don't want to live there, and their relatives trying to cure them from atheism.
I see.
So there's also a
Oh,
thing.
interesting. Okay.
Yes, because people are too like very religious. They can't just accept the fact that someone can not don't believe in the same things that you believe. That people can be atheistic. There's no such a thing. People think you are possessed by jinns and all this stuff. They will go to some religious people to try to how you say it how you say it cure you
Right.
from the atheism
Right.
because you are possessed by jinns. So it's like it's messed up. There's things that happens that too. So when I say there's no space for the individuality and to thinking differently, yes, and sometimes you can get in trouble. Yes.
So
Someone say too
fascinating.
much into religion. Yes, this is the thing. Too much into religion. I'm sorry, my English is not perfect, so uh, I can try to explain as I can.
No, doing great. I'm not having a problem understanding you.
Okay.
Um, I think they're maybe commenting, maybe they don't like that you said too much into religion. I just want to say that
Uh-huh.
the fact of the matter is that,
Uh-huh.
and I'm saying this as a Muslim
Uh-huh.
woman, guys, okay? Like, I'm Muslim, okay?
Yes.
That there are people in your community that do not believe what you believe. And there are
Mm-hmm.
people in your community that do not, their personal lives are very different from, you know,
Yes.
your life, like, and I learned this very young, that for every single person, there is a different way to live. And
Yes.
it's not my job to tell another person what to think or believe.
Mm,
I do me, and if
yeah.
I have an influence on someone, great. If I don't, um, then that's it. That's life.
Yeah.
Um, maybe that's my American upbringing. Maybe
Yeah.
that's my own.
It's very
I
American.
learned that from my mom. I didn't learn that
Yeah.
from anybody else, but I think being in America
Yeah.
sort of made it make sense.
Yeah.
So, you know, uh, just for anybody watching, I just want to say also that this page is not a page about religion,
Uh-huh.
right? It's a page about the the Caucasus and Caucasian people, and a page where we talk about our diversity. I mean, I really can't emphasize how diverse our people are.
Mm-hmm.
Not just in language, right, and nationalities and let's say ethnic groups, but also in just our interests and our who we are. I mean, we're human.
Yes.
We're a very diverse population. We have
Mm-hmm.
every single thing that everyone else has in this world. So, anyways, let's move on to
Okay.
the next
Yeah,
question.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
What's something you think is important that people should know about your culture?
I think I already mentioned a lot of stuff, so
Mm,
I think it's important because why I thought it was important for me to do this interview because looking at your page and other pages, even like from My Republic about culture, it's always just one-sided. It's always something positive. You know, oh, look, this is so beautiful, beautiful culture. Oh,
right.
beautiful things, beautiful music. But there's also a different side, you know, not so beautiful, not so cute. You know what I mean? Honor killings are not beautiful. It's not cute. Um, Religious fanatism, not cute, not beautiful. People try to enforce their mentality upon you, not beautiful. So I think it's important to understand that my culture is very, very strict. There's a lot of rules and no space for freedom thinking. There's no space for that. So I think this is important. And just not about my culture, but in Caucasus in general. Remember, you had the video in your stories. I remember it was in the not in the Abkhazia. People
Ah,
was like kissing there, and somebody
yes,
come up to say, "Oh,
yes,
we don't do that." You
right.
know, that kind of thing. That people very protective of that because in Caucasus you don't do that. You don't kiss. You know, people are very protective. There's no place for. It looks like people show the affection different ways,
Mm,
but it's definitely not physical. You
okay,
can't like kiss, hold their hands, all that
right.
stuff.
They call that
Public.
PDA, public displays of affection, right?
Yes, no such a thing. So I think this is what's this important to understand that it's a not always flowers and butterflies.
I
It's also a lot of different things too.
as as humanity, right?
Yes,
As
yes,
every human has their light side, we also
yeah,
have our shadow, and we can see that within our communities and within our
mm-hmm.
social systems, right?
Right. Okay, yes.
So next question. What's a stereotype about your culture that you'd like to dispel? Um, Meaning that you would like to basically.
Yes, understand. I
Okay.
already Googled that word.
Okay.
So to stereotypes, people that don't live in Russia might not understand what I'm talking about, but in Russia, there's a lot of stereotypes about people from Caucasus.
Okay.
And even the word Caucasian itself, it's always, most of the time, it has a negative undertone to it.
Okay.
Almost always. Caucasian means something negative.
Okay.
But so I think most of the time, from coming from the Russian side, the stereotypes that people from Caucasus are um, aggressive,
Okay.
but it's not like no, I would not say people from Caucasus are more aggressive than Russia, definitely, but they are uneducated and stupid. It's not such a thing because people from Caucasus are they very smart people, very intelligent, and but we might not have the same opportunities as the bigger Russian cities and other
Right.
places that have more like more how you say it, more developed education system,
Right.
all this stuff.
Right.
So definitely because of that. But people from Caucasus are very intelligent, very smart, and we have a lot of even like when it comes to culture, very rich culture,
Right.
music, writing. So we all have that. But I think when from Russian perspective, it's they think we are like uneducated, like, and we are kind of like barbaric. But some aspects can be viewed as a barbaric. But when it comes to us as a human beings,
Mm.
People are willing to be educated when it comes to like education and working in the highest like jobs. We are able to do that, and definitely people are willing, but we might not have the same opportunities.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, in America, we have a lot of the same dynamics between the majority population and
Yes.
ethnic minorities throughout the whole country. Depending on where you are, you know how big this country is too. It's so
Yes.
big. So, yeah, definitely there's a socioeconomic
Mm-hmm.
factor there as far as resources and things like that, which came up actually. I posted a reel about the phenomenon of the MMA fighters that come
Mm-hmm.
out of Dagestan.
Yeah.
And I had people commenting that, yes, it's possible because they are being funded by the country in order to
Mm-hmm.
produce these athletes, so it definitely helps to get money,
Yeah.
to move people forward. Somebody had a question for you. Do you
Uh-huh.
think it's not the culture itself that is toxic and dangerous, but more the unhealthy coping mechanism of the culture trying to survive adversity by wiping out differences within the community that they see as a threat? That's a very good question.
Wait a second. Let me
You,
quickly.
yeah, maybe if, it's hard sometimes to, to process when you're hearing it, but from my
I
end,
don't think so. Actually, I don't think so. I think is the culture itself
okay,
is built that
okay,
way,
okay,
that it's built it's that way. It's enforced itself.
I see.
It's not like people want to do that as a coping mechanism. It's just like it's just the culture itself. You know what I mean?
Mm,
I would. The thing is the very like phenomenal thing to me is people from my republic was sent to was deported from
right.
their land, the whole nation, to the Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan. It's like in the Central Asia.
Mm,
At the end of World War II, it was like Soviet Union did that thing,
wow.
and the fact that the people, the whole nation, lived in the another country and didn't even intermixed with that population.
Right.
Like I never met someone who there was like like racial like marriage between Kazakhstan and English, but they lived there for many years, like 15, I guess.
Mm,
But the people are want to preserve their culture, even like on that level too. So the marriages between other nations are very uncommon.
right.
So people are maybe I think it's actually can be a coping mechanism if you look at the history.
Mm,
Because of like so changing like political climate, you get deported, you get this, you get this. Maybe because of that, people like so protective of their culture. I don't know, but for me, it's fascinating that the whole nation was living basically with the in the Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and they are Muslim too.
mm, right.
But it's not about religion even. It's just people want to preserve even like on that level. We don't mix with other nations,
Right.
like even other Caucasian nations.
Right.
So
Right.
it's I don't know why it is, but if you track it down, I think it comes to some kind of tribal traditions. I think it's not exclusive to my culture, so I think it's like happens in different cultures too. But it all comes down to tribalism. So because in Caucasus, it's a lot of tribalism going on too.
Right.
So I think you track it down to that thing.
Okay.
But I'm not sure about that. So I don't think it's like some kind of like big coping mechanism trying to survive. But adversity, I don't know, mean like by wiping out difference. No, I think the culture itself is just the way it is. Like people think like it's our culture. You need to follow the rules. This is the message of what you get
Right.
since when you was born.
Right. So interesting. There,
Yes.
I know that the person who's putting that the intention is that, when we talk about like generational trauma and we talk about just different things that get passed down over time, Oh, she's saying thank you for your answer. Um, you know, just to
Thank you.
try to understand this topic, because like for me also, this is kind of a new concept. I have not really, you know, just up until very recently heard that those types of things are happening. Although it does not surprise me. I'll be honest,
Mm-hmm.
it does not surprise me, um, because they have that, like I said, even in America, they just call it something else. And when you mentioned toxic masculinity, for anybody who's watching and wants to read a book on this topic, I highly recommend. It's a book by
Mm-hmm.
Bell Hooks. She's an African American writer from America, and she had a book called The Will to Change, and
Mm-hmm.
it is the #1 handbook on toxic or and healthy masculinity, kind of just to give a very well-rounded opinion about it. Um, I could relate a lot to that book, and I'm not a man. So if once you kind of learn about the subject, it helps to develop the conversation behind it. Um, but yes,
Yeah.
when there is very strict sort of idea, a very strict standard on
Yeah.
how people should look or behave or think or whatever, okay, you know, that puts people in a lot of distress and stress, right? So because human beings are naturally
Yeah.
very social creatures, and especially if you come from a very collective community,
Mm-hmm.
you need to feel that connection. You need to feel like I fit in. The last thing I want is that my people don't accept me.
Yeah.
So and I could see that in the community I grew up in
Uh-huh.
America. Imagine. So
Yeah.
it's very strong. It's a very strong pull.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Um,
I understand.
so let's go to the next question.
Yeah, we have not. We have already like spent a
It's
lot of
okay.
time.
It's okay.
Uh-huh.
We'll see what we can get through. We're it's so
Okay.
easy to talk to you. It's so interesting. I'm always looking for people from the Caucasus. It's just hard because of the language barrier. So now
Yeah.
that you're on, I'm like I want to know everything.
Okay. Okay. Let's
Okay.
move forward.
So okay, so this is just changing gears a little bit about the word Caucasian. You know that this page, a big part of this page is
Yeah.
talking about the misuse of the word Caucasian in the West and America and stuff. So how do you feel about this word? What do you want people to know regarding this subject that they might not know?
You know, I actually don't have much to say about it because I actually don't care that much. For me, it was very interesting to
Yeah.
discover that people in America, for first of all, it's just exclusively USA thing,
Right,
Caucasian. It's important to understand, exclusively in America.
right,
But it's important, you know, that in Russia, this word has negative undertone. You see
right,
how it's different.
right.
But it's fascinating that, you know, it's one of the things in the world that fascinating that you look at it and like, wow, how does it happen?
I know.
But there's very interesting story behind it. So if you're interested, you can just Google it. But I don't have any feelings. I think for Caucasus or for people from Caucasus that lives there, there's much bigger problems
Right.
b- like before this word Caucasian. So
I appreciate your honesty.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I've had that before. You know, people are kind of like, really? That's what you care about? But everybody has their
yeah,
thing. So,
yeah. It's
so
like a very first world
yeah,
problem.
very perfect. Right. It's a very first world problem. Um, that's so funny. Okay, so how is your culture maintained even with all the changes that have occurred in the world? How do you maintain your identity and culture?
You see, at at this point, I already like kind of halfway answered this question when
Yeah,
I spoke about my nation
right,
was deported to the Kyrgyzstan. So
right.
it is preserving, I think, successfully,
Mm,
kind of, because people are protective of their culture. But I wish this protection go deeper because this protection always superficial, and it comes to something that you can like no see, the way you act, the way you dress, the way you do. But when it comes to culture, the music, the paintings, the books, that kind of thing, people don't think of that. People don't appreciate it that much. Even the people from my nation itself. For me, I think why I'm able to appreciate my culture now, and why I'm able to speak what I'm speaking right now, it's because I was able to look it from outside perspective. I almost detached from my culture and attach it again. So this is why I appreciate it. But people that live in Ingushetia, day-to-day life, they don't have time to think about their culture, because in Caucasus itself and the Ingushetia is the poorest regions of Russia. So people just try, to survive and to live their lives. So in that kind of places, you rarely see people appreciating and doing much, like, to their culture. It's when you have food at the table and the home, it's then you start to think about culture and all things. But still, I was very fascinated to discover a lot of IG accounts that are even from Ingushetia, because it's even like such a small region, but we have people who try to preserve culture, So I think, it's preserving, it's doing good.
Right.
Those people, if you look at what's going on. So compared to other cultures in the region, so I think my nation is doing good.
I agree. There are, for being the smallest, as you said, republic, so many like just on Instagram accounts that are really dedicated to educating and informing and sharing history and sharing artifacts and things like that. So it's, for me personally, until I created this page, I knew nothing, zero. So I appreciate their effort a lot. And I can relate to what you said so much about disconnecting and then choosing to reconnect. And that's kind of where, for me, this page comes in. This was me putting everything that I care about and learned between my disconnection into my reconnection. And just hoping that there will be people out there that are kind of like me and want to hear, a different perspective about things. So that's so interesting. And I think that that's very true. Sometimes you have to take yourself out in order to really appreciate, going back.
100%, yes.
Beautiful. Okay. Let's go to another question. What culture besides your own do you admire and why?
Oh, this is a very good question.
Okay.
I actually very interested in a lot of cultures, different, because for me, it's a main source of inspiration in my life. I'm a creative person.
Okay.
So for me, different cultures are endless source of inspiration. And besides my own culture, I definitely love other Caucasian cultures. As I said, I very appreciate Circassian cultures, especially dances and music. I actually have separate playlist for Circassian music. And the thing about my culture is, even when I was in denial, when you go there and you experience the music, the food, it's almost like on the genetic level, it vibrates with you. It's like, I can't explain it, but it's something that you can feel as part of you. So Circassian music is also feels for me like this, and other Caucasian cultures too. So I very much like all Caucasian cultures because they can offer you different things. So besides that, I very like, I would say Arabic. By Arabic, I'm intentionally generalizing, because I mostly saying of it's most about language.
Okay.
Because I really like Arabic language, and I listen a lot of music in Arabic, and it's also because I was exposed to Arabic culture when I was children, because the TV series is called Clone. It was about this, it was very popular when I was a child, and it was a short period of time when Arabic culture was kind of like a thing in my
Oh,
republic. We even learned Arabic language when it was in school, because in school we had a class. It says the basics of the
I
religion, and
see.
we tried to learn Arabic in order to read Quran. But I didn't learn that much, but I love the language very much, and I really like Arabic music instrumental. It's so good. I'm like obsessed with it, and most of them it comes from Lebanon,
I
but
see.
it's also from Lebanon, Egypt, and the language and the music, it's so good. And I think actually the people from the Arabic countries, from the Maghreb, and they're from Middle East, they have such a good ability to mix like the pop thing with
Right.
the native, like the traditional music. It's so good, and sometimes it can and other music it can sound cheap, but they can do it very well and sounds
Right.
actually good. So I love it. Besides that, I really like the Scandinavian culture.
Okay.
I also uh, came to that through music too.
Mm,
I just love folk music to begin with, and different folk music. So I love Scandinavian folk music, mythology too,
mm,
and it's very good. I love how Scandinavians view their culture and how they're able to connect with them, because it's on different level.
right.
And I'm really into paganism too, so
Mm,
I like the Scandinavian paganism. It's very important, how it interests me how they're able to mix it to their creativity, to music, to paintings, all these things. So it's very beautiful. Besides that, I very like actually um, Japanese culture.
that's our
It's very
that's our reigning one.
Yes. The
Everybody.
thing is, Japanese culture is so rich.
Right.
Like I haven't even begin to tap into Japanese. It's so rich, it's so big, and it's fascinating. I need to spend more time to learning about Japanese culture, but it's very impressive to me, Japanese culture.
Right.
So besides that, what I would say, but pretty much I have a lot of other cultures, but I also love a lot about Native Americans too.
Okay.
I don't know much, but from what I know, the way the Native Americans, the way they connect to nature, it's very interesting. And I wish all the people on the world will uh, was able to connect with nature as the Native Americans can do that.
Right.
For me, it's fascinating how they like the things they say like about nature, and how they like basically live with nature, not like they use nature, they live with nature. So it's very interesting and important. And yeah, but this is what comes in my mind right now,
Mm.
but there's more,
I
definitely.
I could feel how excited you were. I could hear it in
Yeah.
your voice that is so exciting for you to talk about that.
Yes.
There is, I wanted to say, among Circassian people, especially online, which I feel like is a very safe place for people to, um, dabble in their hobbies and find their
Mm-hmm.
community. There is a growing pagan, they call it Chabzaism, according
Yes.
to Wikipedia, right? So, kind of movement, and it's so interesting because in Jordan, it's kind of very popular.
Mm-hmm.
In America, I don't know. I don't know anybody who's outwardly practicing Chabzaism. But when I read about it, I am so amazed at like just the
Mm-hmm.
depth of just it's so rich and it's so
Yes.
interesting. So the
Yes.
fact that I grew up here learning about all like the big ones, right? Like Greeks and Romans and
Mm-hmm.
ancient European religions, and then Native American religion and South American. I mean, we learned about that, so it's like I
Yeah.
have a really good idea. And then when you learn about your own culture's like
Yes.
ancient religion, it's just like wow. It fits right in. It's so incredible.
Yes.
And You were saying about how the Native Americans are so connected to nature. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can speak about the Circassian people based on what I've read about this Chabsism, is that
Uh-huh.
we were so, guys, connected to nature, like
Yes.
so connected to nature. And I probably said it now like 8 times. I'm Muslim, okay?
Yes.
But I'm not afraid to read and learn. So
Yeah.
to be secure about who I am, doesn't mean that I'm going to read something just for anybody who thinks that this is weird, weird
Mm-hmm.
conversation. Because, I read about everything. Okay. I'm naturally curious about things that come up in my life. So this definitely came up. It's so interesting. I've read, the Jordanian artist Zaina
Mm-hmm.
El Said, I believe is her name. She has
Mm-hmm.
written extensively on this topic, and it is so cool. And for anybody interested, I highly recommend reading her work. So interesting. So thank you for bringing those up. Japan is
Yes.
like always on the list. It's just a
Yeah.
favorite. We feel that,
By
that
the way, I
connection.
also want to mention, I forgot about Chinese culture. I think
Oh, okay.
Chinese culture is very, how you say it, unappreciated kind of in the world because the image of the China in
Right,
today's world.
right.
But the Chinese culture, oh my God, I love a lot of movies, Chinese movies that
Okay.
kind of like made it to the Hollywood. I don't know, did you watch, but the House of Flying Daggers? It's a very, I'm obsessed with Chinese culture. It's so rich and I love it. Just the visuals, just to look at the visuals are very beautiful. And
Right,
Chinese actually invented a lot of things
right.
in this world. So I also like Chinese culture. Yes.
Beautiful. Yeah, I definitely see the diversity on this planet as a huge asset.
Mm-hmm.
So interesting, so much to learn from. I mean, it seems like you have a very similar idea on that.
Yes.
Um, cool. Okay, let's go to the next question.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a memory of being engaged in a cultural setting that you remember feeling so deeply happy in that moment?
Yes, actually, it's kind of my most of the recent more memories being at home. So the part of our culture is they think maybe it's called zikr. It's
Okay.
kind of mix between Islam and like it's our own way doing zikr. So you can see zikr in it's you have it in Turkey too,
Yeah.
but in our culture too, it's different. But the thing is, it looks like bunch of people, man. They're just spinning very fast, and I
I've
remember
seen it.
this.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very fascinating, and the energy it's just emanating from
Right.
those people. And I experienced it a lot when I was a child, when I
Mhm.
was there, and a lot. But when I moved kind of to like other Russian city, but the more I grew up, I tend to not go to that events that much.
Mhm.
But the last time I saw this, it was very like very beautiful and it was fascinating. And yes, this was the memory, the last memory, and I remembered my childhood memories visiting these events. So basically, Zikr, where I came from, it's usually only happens at
I
funerals.
see.
Yes, so you can see at funerals, and it's amazing for me. Yes, I
It's the
love this.
it's the energy. You were talking about the energy. Is it
Mm.
that, or does it feel like it's because it's something you remember from when you were a child? It's just like there's a lot of nostalgia attached to it.
It feels the just like a part of me. You know what I mean? Like I know what it is, and I just look at it and I enjoy it, and it's like the cultural setting that I'm enjoying being into, and also the energy. Like you can feel it. Like you can't be there and don't feel that energy, and just the skill too to be able to do that.
Right.
It's also fascinating because all that men who's spinning, there's a different ages. They're
Right.
elderly, they're young. So I think it's beautiful. Yeah,
I've seen
it's really.
videos of it, and it blows me away. There's
Hmm.
a physical element there,
Yeah.
and it is incredibly spiritual.
Yes.
Because everyone's, I believe, saying the same thing at the same time as well.
Yes.
So it's very just you're in sync with everybody
Yeah.
who's participating, and it's incredibly impactful. I didn't
Yes.
know that it was mostly, you said, after a funeral. I didn't
Yes,
realize that.
it's in funerals. Like when
I
funerals, people
I
do that at funerals. But no, it's only at the funerals happens. And the interesting thing about the religion and those stuff, like I want to quickly say that religion, what's happening with the religion there is its own thing because now you have kind of dispute between like religion too, because you have these people now who say we need to do religion how it's supposed to be, as like our prophet did it. It's like original Islam, and the zikr really didn't fit
right,
in that. You know what I mean?
right,
So now it's a lot of like tension between people who say, "Oh, this is like kind of like leftovers of paganism or something
right,
else, and
right,
we should not do that." And the people who try to preserve and protect the culture and saying, "This is the part of our culture, and this is just like praying to God the one way." And this tells you the level of the religious fanaticism when people try to say we need to be like original, like the original Islam. So
right.
it's its own thing that's going on.
So interesting because I have like my family connection is to the diaspora in the Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And that diaspora, because they lived in the Middle East for generations, they were, thrown into basically mainstream Islam. And a lot of those, once basically they, like, for example, my parents were born in Golan Heights in Syria.
Mm-hmm.
And that was taken from them during the 67 war when basically Israel absorbed where they
Yes.
had been placed by the Ottomans, because that's how long that the community was there until they were forcibly removed from that as well. And then they moved to Damascus. Both of my parents had that
Mm-hmm.
experience. They were just different ages. Um, so I have heard, and I think this is a conversation also that happens in America because we have a lot of Middle Eastern origin diaspora as well, like
Mm-hmm.
myself, where there is a distinction, right, between cultural practices that
Yeah.
are different from the mainstream,
Yes.
where they have dropped them completely, the
Mm-hmm.
cultural practices, and they've absorbed a more mainstream sort of
Mm-hmm.
practice. But what I found interesting is when you are on the internet, which I
Mm-hmm.
am on often reading, like I just finished reading about something in the Caucasus, and it came up about basically how Circassian people, for example, have always mixed their ancient
Mm-hmm.
practices with whatever's kind of going on now. So even though they like it's an Islamic sort of uh, practice,
Yeah.
they do put in a lot of, let's say, pagan or
Mm-hmm.
even Christian sort of practices. That's all kind of swirled together.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. It's
This
so
is what
fascinating.
naturally happens.
Right,
Like this is naturally happens in
right,
because religion for me it's like it's something like universal, but it always
right,
mixes like with the culture. You can't just eradicate culture.
right.
For me, it's so creative that religion always try to compete with culture. Like
Mm,
it's like two things that can't, compete. It's either religion or culture.
I see.
So because paganism is too culture, you know what I
Right,
mean? So,
right,
but here in my republic, I definitely can see because of religion, a lot of like cultural
right.
stuff is people losing it because of religion. For
I see.
example, I don't know, like it's happening, it's real. So religion is the one way people are kind of losing their own culture. Now
Right.
you can't even like you don't even see that much. For example, at the weddings, you don't see that much even like people are singing or dancing
I
because of religion.
I see.
Because to follow every rule in Islam, you kind of need to live in a cave, I guess, because you can't dance, you can't watch TV, you can't sing, you can do nothing. And
Right.
people are fanatics, people want to follow every rule. So this is why people, this is not that much religious. We are not gonna sing. We're not gonna do that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of very disturbing to me what's happening with the kind of religion, and also very very interesting thing. The witch hunt is also a thing, because people where I came from believe in witchery, and it's still a big thing in Caucasus in general. The witchery, and in the Islam, witchery is very very bad thing.
Right.
So now we have witch hunts, people who are very religious and they try to persecute the people who does witchery. So now people who does witchery in Ingushetia are scared, and people go outside of the republic to find someone to do the witchery things. And it's real, and people believe in that. And I believe it too.
Right.
I believe in the witchery, and you can do something. So this is, people believe in that kind of things in Ingushetia, in Caucasus.
Right. Even in my experience growing up so far away, I definitely felt the tension between religion and culture. And that's why when I decided to wear my scarf, the people, like, that tension came straight at me, you know. It was just kind of like, whoa, what's going on? You know, people, certain personalities were like, what are you doing? And I'm like, wow, what's the big deal? But yeah, I mean, I definitely, and I think that people watching this could relate to some degree, that there definitely is a tension between culture and religion. I know that a lot of very cultural people, and I learned this in Turkey. I saw this very clear in Turkey, because Turkey it's a secular country with a very broad Islamic brush painted on it. So, but they're secular first. You have to make that distinction. So when I met Circassian people, it was very clear that it's like you're in one camp or you're in the other, right? So you're either cultural or you're religious. But I know from also that there are people who are identify as religious, like they're believers of, you know, Islam or another religion, for example, and they consider themselves cultural. Like they speak the language, they dance, they observe Circassian etiquette, for example. You know, they educate themselves on history and stuff, but there are definitely certain things that are not compatible, like paganism, like you know, a witch culture, like magic and things like that, which obviously are not going to work with any monotheistic religion. So that's very interesting for you to mention that. I've actually invited people who are practicing pagans or you know, of that category, and they refuse to come on because I think they know that it's very taboo. There's just like an element of, you know, why would I expose myself to what people have to say about this topic? It's like, I get it. I mean, I want to hear about it, but not maybe you don't want to share that with the whole world. So
definitely.
Right. Okay, let's go to the next question. Let's see. Are there any areas of your life experience so far that you feel you've broken generational trauma?
Oh, definitely. I'm doing it right now, like with my family, and the fact that I always been outspoken, and I never settled for the things that just, you know, oh, should be that way. I always ask questions. I always, you know, bring up conversations. So I'm definitely doing it with my family, breaking a lot of generational trauma. And for example, like my sister, she have children, and I try to educate her not to be so tough with her children, because I can see what this tough, how you say it, oh my God, tough way of teaching the children did to me and to other people. I'm very aware of that, and I spent a lot of time healing myself and trying to connect again with my family, especially with my father. And because where I came from, there's no space for emotions. People don't speak at all about trauma,
Right.
so like therapy. There's no such thing. People think, oh, you need to go to pray and everything will be fine.
Yes.
No, religion have different purpose in life. It's not about resolving your trauma. So I'm definitely doing this job with my family because I care about my family, and I'm definitely one of like I don't know. I'm the person who's doing this work right now with myself and with my family. And for me, just to bring the conversation about me having traumas from my childhood with my parents is like it's something completely new for them and for me too, and for my siblings and for my relatives too. So I'm definitely feel like I'm breaking generational curses. I will say even more. I kind of became a few years ago more like try to became more spiritual and try to go deeper in spiritual journey.
Mm.
And I have found people, the person who helped me, and I was even trying to find more information from my past lives, because I believe that the soul we have different lives.
Right.
So I tried to look at my past lives, at other like stuff. So I go really deep in in that matter. So try to work on myself. So yeah, I'm doing the job.
That's good. You're very brave. You're very brave. It's one of the hardest things to do is to face different things that have happened that have negatively impacted you. So
Yeah,
it's actually very, very brave of anybody to do that. And of course, on this page, you know that I strongly encourage that type of self-exploration and self-knowledge, self-awareness, right? So
yeah. Thank you.
I'm very, that's very good to hear. Just talking to you this whole time, that's very obvious, that you're making an effort to heal those wounds.
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. Okay, and then let's wrap this up with like one more question.
Uh-huh.
Let's see. Do you think culture can play a part in coping with anxiety, grief, sadness, or depression?
You know, mm, I like I don't think so. I think culture can cause all these things that you said, but
Right.
coping, no. I'm speaking from my
Okay.
experience. All these things my culture caused, but not help. I actually like to wrap up. I would like to answer one question.
Sure.
Uh, like I thought it was worth to mentioning,
Okay.
but I don't remember. I would like to share with some tradition, something from my culture
Okay.
that not even a lot of people within my culture know.
Okay.
So, and I didn't see it in other cultures too.
Okay.
So in my culture, we have this thing. It's called dol. It's called doldular. It means only women can do that, first of all, and it's the kind of ritual, and they do this ritual when you feel sick,
Okay.
and because people from where I came from believe in the, like energy, like bad energy. I don't know how you say it. Uh, Let me quickly the specific word.
Is it like
Uh,
evil eye energy?
Evil eye, yes,
Okay.
yes, evil eye. People very much believe in the evil eye
Right.
and all these things. So when you experience this evil eye, you kind of like get two types of evil eye. Where I came from, we determined we have two types of evil eye. So one evil eye is when someone's like looked at you and with evil eye basically, and you can feel sick just because.
Okay.
For example, my mom used to say, she go to some kind of social events, weddings, and my mom is a beautiful woman, and she said, "Oh, all these people look at me with evil eyes, and now I feel sick."
Oh.
You know,
Okay.
it happens. People believe in that, and I believe it too.
Okay.
And the other evil eye is kind of when you experience something very emotional, kind of like a little bit traumatic, when you know emotionally overwhelmed. For example, you have a big argument with your father or someone else, and you can feel sick just because of that. And it happens to me actually too.
Okay.
So when this happens to you and other things too, when you feel sick, you go to that woman, and everybody know this woman can do this ritual.
Okay.
Because as I know, in order to do that, to be able to do that, you need to. I don't know much about it. You need to see in your dreams, when you're sleeping in your dreams, the sun and the moon at the same time at the sky, 3 times.
Wow.
When you see 3 times the and the moon at the skies in your sleep, you are able to do that ritual. And our neighbor, she used to do that. When she was alive, and she was like granny, like how we say it. She was in the like that age. Because I think you need to live a very long life in order to see moon and the sun 3 times in your dreams at the sky.
Right. Very
So
specific.
it's very specific. And the thing is, there's so little information known about this thing.
Okay.
And you go there, you bring with yourself a, how you say it, a piece of fabric kind of, and you put 2 knots at the 2 ends of that fabric. And in 1 knot you put a salt, and the other knot is empty. And when you come to that woman, you bring something like little like sacrifice. It can be food, it can be money, something to give them. You give them it, and they do this ritual. It's kind of a lot of movements with their hands, and they do a circles above your head, and they say basically they can feel that you have that kind of evil eye, and you have that much of evil eye. And then they do the movements again, and they kind of like do some kind of how you say it, they spell some kind of words. I don't know what they say, but it's
almost like a prayer or a chanting.
Yes, kind of like chanting. I tried to kind of like a spell.
Okay.
Yes, they do it, and they say then you need to go home, and you put this salt in the fire, and it needs to be burnt. And when it's put, so when you put the salt in the fire, it starts to crack and basically do like little explosions. And it says the stronger it's like do this cracking, the stronger like the evil eye was. So this is very fascinating, and it helps. The thing is, it helps. You feel better after it.
Right.
So it's very fascinating. Nowadays, you don't have that much. I don't even know is there people left who do that. And I tried to ask people about that. Do you know anything about this? But like, I don't even know, is it like a pagan or not, what it is, where it came from. But people say, oh, I don't know. And it's not like according to our religion.
Right.
So it's not like, you see, this is the example where we're losing culture because of religion. People now think it's not like, it's not too like, it's not religious. It's not like according to Islamic laws. So you can do that.
Right.
And basically the woman who does that, they are dying. And I don't think they are passing that information to other, because they are also maybe thinking that this is not like too religious. So I don't know, like this is the one fascinating thing that I only experienced in my culture, and I don't heard anybody speaking of that.
So interesting. I mean, growing up in a predominantly Muslim and Islamic, an American way. It came from Syria and it kind of landed in America, and we just kind of took it from there. I mean, it's funny. It's like a mix. So it reminds me of like, when people are saying they're possessed by a jinn, and then they go and then the imam reads certain chapters from the Quran on them, and different. They have their own thing that they do. But like, for example, when it comes to evil eye, what we say in Arabic, which is like your mom, you go to a party, you look so beautiful, you come back, and then like you get sick or something breaks, like something just glass shatters somewhere in
Yes.
the house, and then they say, oh, infested is shut. So it
Yes.
means like the evil or the bad, it broke that thing, and it
Mm-hmm.
basically protected you from being sick.
Mm.
So there's similarities from what you're saying,
Yes.
but the salt element, definitely, I've never heard that before. That has its own
Yes. The salt is kind of like absorbing all this
right,
thing, and you put it in fire
right.
then. So I guess it's so. This
Interesting.
is very
So
interesting.
very interesting. I don't know. I mean, I love hearing about these things. My mom told me that like my grandmother's generation. So my grandmother, she was born in the Golan Heights and she lived there until they had to leave. So she was a woman, a young woman when they
Yes.
left. But even in the Golan Heights, they would still do very cultural practices
Mm-hmm.
that were not exactly Islamically certified.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So little things like, when you cut your hair, what do you do with the clippings?
Yes. Yes.
Bury them in the backyard or something, or even cutting your nails, different things they would say when there's a new baby in the house, or do for the
Yeah.
baby, protect the baby. Different rituals like that, which are not Islamic,
Yeah.
definitely cultural, but as you said,
Yeah.
the culture kind of takes a
Takes back.
backseat because now
Mm-hmm.
the religion is the chosen practice for a lot
Yes.
of people, right?
Yes. Definitely.
So interesting. So
Mm-hmm. Yes.
um, yeah, and I know that people who are reviving, like in different parts of the world, the Circassian, for example, paganism
Mm-hmm.
practice, the Shabzaism, it's a reaction to what you're describing.
Yes.
Religion has erased a lot of like ancient practices, and they're
Uh-huh.
trying to bring them back.
Definitely.
So it's an interesting conversation to have. Um,
Yes.
very cool. So thank you for sharing that. That was so. I mean, I I wouldn't have gotten that anywhere else. So I really appreciate you
Yes.
sharing that with me here, and with
Yes.
my with
No
my
problem.
audience. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And with that, Aslan, we're gonna wrap this up. Um,
Yes.
Thank you for taking the time for
Yes.
coming on here. It was so interesting speaking to you. Um, uh,
Yes. Thank
the
you. Thank you too, Nur, because it was very kind of like full circle moment for me,
right.
starting with appreciating my culture again and being able to use your platform to share with my story and my culture. So it definitely feels like full circle moment for me. And thank you for providing your culture, or I mean, like your platform for me to share it. So I'm very grateful to you and all the people who was today on the live. So yeah, I'm looking forward to know to teach myself more through your account too about Caucasian culture. So thank you so much.
Thank you. It's an honor for you to be here, to
Yeah.
even be on my page. Thank you for allowing
Thank you,
me to
thank you.
occupy a part of your brain every now and then. I appreciate
Yes,
it.
thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Take
Bye.
care. Bye bye.
Take care. Bye.